The last 4 years in the housing market have undoubtedly made the life for a home buyer more difficult, specifically a first-time home buyer. The difficulty meter has gone up significantly, and the questions, frankly, that you should be asking yourself as someone who does not own a property yet have changed. They're different. The strategies that can get you into a home are a little bit more advanced in some ways, and in some ways more simple. And I have 25 most frequently asked questions I get from somebody looking to buy a home for the very first time, not only in the Delaware market, but the whole market, the whole country. There's certain ways that you need to prepare your credit. There's certain things you can do to get your savings right. And there's little hacks and tricks that I've learned in my 7+ years of serving both military relocators and first-time homebuyers. Sometimes that's the same person here in Delaware. I want to tell you right now what those 25 questions are and then answer them for you in order. Step 1 is where/how do I get started in the home buying process? That's a great question, and quite simply can be broken down to 3 steps. Your first step is to reach out to a real estate professional. They are going to point you in the direction more than likely of a mortgage professional. Now you can skip number 1 and go straight to number 2. It's absolutely fine. And then step number 3, they're going to pull your credit and look into what is making your financial history tick. They're going to want to see your income. They're going to want to know what your savings are. And this is all to basically set the stage for what the strategy needs to be to get you into a property and let you know where your credit needs to move, where your income needs to go, how much maybe you need to save or pay off in order to buy a home. That is the first step. Always going to be the first step. Link up with a real estate professional. Figure out how financially viable it is for you to be able to own your next home. Second question, what are the qualifications for buying a home or getting a mortgage? Great question. First, if you don't know what a mortgage is, that is a 30-year loan. Typically, you can get different terms, but typically it's going to be 30 years where you are basically telling the bank, hi, I want to live here. It's really expensive, but here's what I'll do. I'm going to live in this house, but you get to hold the deed, Mr. Bank. And while I do that, I'm going to slowly pay you back for that gigantic amount of money, that $400,000, $500,000, maybe even $200,000, maybe it's smaller, that you gave up front for me to be able to purchase this house. That's what a mortgage is. And over that 30-year time frame, each month you pay a little bit toward that large amount, of course with interest, toward that large amount of principal that you were given to initially buy that home. And if you're looking to get a mortgage, there's only 4 things you need to know to qualify. You need to know your credit, you need to know your income, you need to know your employment, and you need to know your savings. Going in reverse order, savings, we're going to want to see that you have reserves. And when I say we, I mean a mortgage professional. This could be a bank, this could be a credit union, this could be a mortgage lender. There is a difference between those 3. Highly suggest researching that. But they're going to want to see that you have some money in the bank. You're frankly going to need some money in the bank to be able to purchase a home. I'd say to get started, $5,000. If you have $5,000 in the bank, especially in Delaware, there are programs to help get you started, but you're really going to be in a good position if you could get to $7,500, even $10K in the bank account. And that does include accessible retirement and investment accounts. So like not a 401k, because that's tough money to get out and you're going to get tax hit a lot. This is accessible money. Not money tied up, say, if I sold my car, I'd have 20K. That's not accessible money. If you have a Robinhood account, that's accessible money. And all of that counts toward the reserves that bank's going to want to see. Number 3, going back in reverse order, they're going to want to see your employment. They're going to want to see that you've been at your job for at least a year. And if you're making bonuses/commissions or are a 1099 independent contractor, they're going to want to see that you've been there for 2 years and have filed for your taxes twice. Next up's income. Bank wants to make sure you're going to be able to pay that mortgage every single month. They do this by making sure you make enough. I typically want to make sure that you're making at least 2.5 to 3 times what your mortgage is going to be. So if you're going to have a $2,000 mortgage, which we can get into what a realistic mortgage looks like later, I want to see that you're at least making about $5,000 to $6,000 a month comfortably with not a ton of debt. If you have a $750 truck payment, credit card payment, student loans, and a child care, man, that's going to be really tough in the debt to income ratio to get you into a home. So make sure you're keeping the debt as minimized as possible if you're trying to buy your first home. And the scariest one for most, credit. It's very simple. We want to have above a 620. And you may say, Zach, I have like 4 credit scores out there. Which one needs to be a 620? They're going to look at your main 3, the Experian, the TransUnion. They're going to look at those. Then they're going to take the middle one. Okay? They're going to take the middle of those 3 scores. So don't use Credit Karma. Credit Karma is just guessing. Literally go to Experian.com. Literally go onto these credit unions' websites and look up your credit. The middle one, that's your credit. You want it above a 620, preferably, if you're really savvy, 640 to 680, okay? Those are the main qualifications you'll need to get any type of mortgage. How do I determine my budget when looking to buy a property? Great question once again, and a very simple answer. We referenced earlier the 2.5 times to 3 times your income, and we're gonna echo that. I wanna make sure that if you're looking at a $300,000 house, which is probably gonna lead you to about a $2,000 mortgage, that $2,000 mortgage is covered with income that's 2.5 to 3 times it, meaning you're making 5 to 6K every single month because you don't wanna be house poor. How long does the process take to buy a home? Once you're under contract, 30 to 45 days is the typical closing time frame where you'll take something you've put an offer in on and that was accepted and go through inspections and things of that nature to go to the closing table and take on the home. But the home search process could take 2, 3, even 6, 8 months. So that timeline is really a lot based off of you. But once we have the home in line, in sight, and under contract, 30, 45, 60 days, and that home is yours. What do I do if I feel like buying a home is impossible in this market? I have to say, I make a lot of TikToks about this and have a lot of amazing comments and engagement around people that feel and empathize with this current housing market being tougher than statistically any market that's come before it, at least in Delaware. Nationally speaking, if I stroke with a broad brush, the entire country is seeing one of the most difficult times to ever purchase a property. So if you feel like it's impossible, it's not like you're wrong or off the wrong path. You're on the right path. It is very difficult and much more difficult than just 1 year ago, 2, 3, 2019, whole different world than where we're sitting at today. So you're on the right path to understand it's more difficult, but I'd advise against saying it's impossible. It's not. We just went over the qualifications needed to be able to get into a home. You may be stuck thinking about the income. You may be stuck thinking about the savings or that wrecked credit that came from the divorce or something you did as a kid. All these things are valid, but understand all of this is sitting in a cycle. The housing market lives and dies by cycles. Every market lives and dies by cycles. All the tough times will bring good times. So your best bet right now is to prepare. And especially if you think the housing market right now is impossible for you. Get your credit right and save money. How do you make sure your first offer gets accepted when looking at homes? I'll start with, we made a full breakdown on the whiteboard of this video of exactly how to get your first offer accepted if you want me to go into real detail on this one. But just to be broad, once again, if it's a popular property, a beautiful home, you're gonna wanna make sure you're in there close to, if not when it is listed. Go to the open house initially, make sure you're there on opening weekend, be prepared to submit a financially competitive offer, and have a strategy with your real estate agent. You should not be working with an agent that is a door opener, that is showing up to the property maybe with a page of, hey, this is what was printed off the MLS and here's all the square footage. Like, you do not need that type of representation as a first-time home buyer in this market. You need a go-getter. You need someone who's a strategic juggernaut that understands and knows these agents, knows these neighborhoods, and frankly knows how to get offers accepted, because that's not your job. Your job's to be advised. Your job's to buy a home. That's what you want. Our job is to make sure you're put in a position to where your first offer is accepted, or at least one of the subsequent offers is accepted. That's on us. So if you have an agent that just seems like a door knocker, not an offer, generator, consider maybe swapping realtors. Are there other costs to close on a home other than the down payment and the real estate agent commission? Great question. Typical closing costs when going to buy a home are as follows. You're gonna have the down payment on the mortgage. This could be any type of mortgage, which means there could be any different type of down payment. We'll go into those different mortgage types later in the video. Number one is gonna be your down payment on the mortgage. Now, depending on the mortgage type you have, will determine the down payment that is required as a minimum, and you can always give a higher down payment if you'd like. We'll go into mortgage types later in the video though. Number two is you're also gonna have an appraisal and inspections happening to make sure that the bank is ready to finance this property for you and that it's a property you wanna take on and there aren't any surprises that you don't know about. Again, depending upon the mortgage, you may have lender costs and you have an attorney who is representing you in Delaware. Every state's a little different. You'll need to know if your state is an attorney state or a title state. You can Google that very simply. If you're a title state, it's a little cheaper to close. If you're an attorney state, you get your own buyer representation, which is great, who also closes the loan for you. And the last one, your agent representing you, getting his commission, her commission, could be one of your closing costs. It could be something that's covered by a seller, because you can get seller concessions. You can put in your offer, hey, I don't have this 12K. Can you pay for it? Sometimes you can offer them more than what they're asking for, or even just give them what their list price is. And sometimes that works. In this market's a little tougher, but it can work. Otherwise, how much you pay your agent is completely going to be determined by the negotiation done and what your agent who's representing you charges you, because that's all negotiable. When is the best time to buy a home? I'm going to treat greet you with a very blunt answer. The best time to buy a home is when you can financially afford to buy a home. There has not been a 5-year period in the U.S. housing market where it has not been a profitable item to own real estate in the majority of the country. Delaware specifically, that number is closer to 3 years because Delaware in a micro market is a sought after area with not much land. If you know supply and demand, you know that a low amount of supply and a high amount of demand means higher price points, meaning most people who own a home in Delaware are going to see the benefits of it in the years and decades to come. Which is why I say when you can get pre-approved and can get into the home that meets you and your family's needs and locational necessities, buy the home. Do I need inspections when purchasing a home, and who fixes the repairs if they find any? Always suggest a home inspection. It's legally not required for most loans, but always suggesting, and I'm going to ask you so many times why, if you want to avoid that home inspection or not have it all together, it is very important. You also have wood destroying insect inspections, septic inspections, radon inspections, swimming pool inspections. You can get the well inspected. There's so many different inspections you can have, and if that item needs to get inspected, you should have that inspection. Now, a great question is, who then fixes the repairs? Anything majorly wrong with those items that are found, per the contract, at least in Delaware, the seller is to take on all of those major repairs. Major repairs could be the roof, the plumbing, the foundation, electric, could even be the grading around the property. There's a lot of items that have to do with the livability from day one and the long-term value of a home. And anything that affects one of those two things is going to be considered a major repair, and the seller will have to fix that. How much cash do I need to get started / how much will I need to actually buy the house? I'm going to tell you up front. Again, if you have $10K in your account with different grants in Delaware and with negotiating, you should be good as a first-time home buyer. Less than that's possible. $5K is probably a good starting point to have a conversation. And if you're over $15 or $20K, it is time to get started. My credit is bad. How do I fix it? I would say right here is an opportunity to speak with a savvy first-time home buyer facing real estate agent because they have connections to lenders who will do something magical for you. They have 3 different tools. 1, they have a tool that's going to be able to read your score with a soft pull, and that algorithm is then going to be pulled within their system that tells you exactly how to get your credit up. It literally says, hey, pay this down to here, move this account to that, and only pay this down to here, and then do it again next month, and your credit will go up 42 points. And then the third thing they can do is called a rapid rescore, where they literally bug the heck out of the unions and fax them all the stuff to make sure they update your score right then. People have gotten their score up 30, 40, 60, 70 points in like a week with these programs. And if you want to text me about it, just text me rapid rescore. We can talk credit. It's very common. It's very real. A lot of people have credit issues, and you need to get your credit to a 620 before you can buy a home. Should I be looking at foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, and short sales? Let's define them and answer that. A foreclosure is when somebody could no longer afford the property, and the bank came in after a certain period of time and said, hey, we're going to take this back. Now, that period can take a year, 2 years, sometimes even 2.5, 3 years for the bank to fully take over the property, have the old owner move out, and then for them to be able to put it back onto the housing market. Meaning that property has been unoccupied, uncared for, and basically just going to waste for that period of time. It's not usually a home that people are going to want to jump all over. And a lot of people remember from 2008 to 2016, all the foreclosures that happened that led to opportunities, sometimes for their parents, friends, other coworkers. Not in this market. Foreclosures are not nearly as common, and when they do hit the market, they're going to be comped and priced out at market value. There's really not going to be any benefit going after foreclosures because banks have so few. The benefit came when they had so many. A pre-foreclosure is when someone's been alerted that their home is going under foreclosure, and for some reason, Zillow puts them on blast. Do not contact these people and don't inquire about those homes because they're not for sale. They've gone into the foreclosure process, but that homeowner still lives there, still owns the property, could still pay it down and get rid of the foreclosure process. I have no clue why that even goes up. Do not look at those homes if they pop up on Zillow. Third one's a short sale. Again, this home is going to be priced at market value to which it can sell for because this is a scenario where the homeowner owes more than the home's worth. They're going to come up short when they sell the home, hence a short sale. The bank's going to be selling that home for as much as possible to make up for as much debt as possible. You're not going to get a deal on a short sale, and these deals can sometimes take 4, 6, 8, 10 months to close and have extra fees you have to pay because you have to pay a buyer negotiator. kind of silly. If I had all three options, should I rent, buy, or live with my family? I'm going to give the number one most obvious, clear answer if all three of these are options. Live with your family. You may thought I was going to say buy there. I'm telling you, live with family. Here's why. Earlier, I said save money and get your credit up. What better scenario do you have to save money and get your credit up when you're living somewhere where you're not pressured to pay anything or pay minimally for things, may not have any rent if minimal rent, and also possibly be in the presence of people who actually enjoy you and will keep up with your shortcomings because they love you and they're your family and they're going to support you during this market. If you have that opportunity, take it. Take it. Option number two, buy, obviously. And if you can buy, maybe that's your number one option. I completely understand that, and that might be wise. But don't feel pressured into it. But if buying's financially able, buy. Renting, unfortunately, in today's day and age, guys, is just as financially taxing as buying, requiring you to make sometimes 3 times, if not more, per month what your rent would be. And a lot of times that rent will be higher than what the mortgage would be. Meaning sometimes you got to make a minimum of $8,000 a month just to step up to the plate of potentially renting. Here we go. How many mortgage types are there and how do I know which one I should utilize? This is a savvy question. I'm going to list out the 4 main ones. We have conventional, FHA, VA, and USDA. Conventional is the standard where you hear you need 5, 10, or 20% down. The real number is 5%. You need 5% down to take on a conventional loan. Some products that can offer some slightly better terms are at 10%. And conventional loans that don't have any PMI, you'll hear that word used maybe by your father, uncle, grandfather to avoid with all costs, is mortgage insurance. It's another couple $100 added onto the mortgage payment. And once you pass 20% equity, or if you put 20% down, that PMI goes away. FHA. This is the most common mortgage with a 3.5% down payment, a requirement of a 620 credit score, and with all the other qualifications, been at your job for a year, have a little bit of savings. This also tailors in with Delaware's grant programs, which can give you $10,000, sometimes $12,000 in closing assistance because you're a first-time home buyer in Delaware. That's where Delaware's programs come involved. I'm going to talk about those here in a second at the end. That's number 2. Number 3 is USDA. It's 100% financing. Tough to get, though. It's got to be in a rural area, and you can't make much. So it's really difficult to maneuver. We can talk about that option, though. And the last one's VA. Also 100% financing for our military veteran men and women who have served our country. They get 100% financing, and they're not allowed to pay a funding fee. They can really walk through that table without paying next to nothing. If you're looking to buy in Dover, especially near our Air Force Base, the VA loan, great option for you. When is the home actually yours when you're closing on it? Simple. When you actually go to the closing table, when you've signed a slew of documents with attorneys, you've probably met the party selling the home, you're there with your agents, you take the pictures. After you leave that table and the last document signed, that home is now officially yours. Is it actually harder to buy a home in 2024 than it was to buy a home last year? Yes. Very simple answer on that one. Yes, it is. Home prices are higher. Mortgage rates are still high. And quite honestly, no real answers have been presented. No real new options have been given to first-time home buyers since this uptick in price of 40+% we've seen since 2020. Are there other costs to homeownership that I should know about? Yes, and a great question to ask ahead of time. You're obviously going to be paying electric and utilities. You probably are put 2 and 2 together like that. But you also have home insurance and property taxes, and these oftentimes get escrowed straight into your mortgage payment. They're wrapped right in. You don't even notice them. And the other costs you can also have is your appliances could go out. You're responsible if the roof falls apart or if the foundation cracks. You're responsible for these things. Quite honestly, the average maintenance repair on a home is somewhere between $1,250 and $2,000 per year on average. It's nothing huge or gigantically significant. That's a terrible sentence. I hate that I even said it, but regardless, home ownership is always going to be the better option than renting because a lot of the costs that go with home ownership also go to renting, whereas only a few are only on the home ownership side, and the equity you're gaining over time from owning that home usually far outweighs the cons. Is it cheaper to buy land and build or do new construction versus buying a used property? It is always going to be more expensive to do new construction, whether you buy your own lot of land and put a double wide on it, or you go to K. Hovani and Ryan Home, D.R. Horton, and have them build you a home. Either way, it's gonna be more expensive than resale 99 times out of 100, and here's why. It's custom, it's new, you're the first person that's ever gonna set foot in it. That's number one. Number two, resale gives the opportunity for the comps and the market to determine the market value. And in that scenario, it's going to come down to what's sold in the area, whereas a neighborhood has a little bit more control over their pricing and oftentimes has control over their marketing. They'll make it seem like it's a slightly better deal sometimes than it really is. Now, I will specifically say, if you're looking to build in a new build community of townhomes or even, smaller new construction, 13 to 1,500 square foot, those do exist. And at a 300 to 375 budget, that could be a solid option for you. But if you're looking to buy land and put a double wide on it, you have to think, you got to get electric to that dirt that you're on. You got to get sewage to that dirt, that lot that you're on. You got to get all these things like your driveway, your well. You got to actually have some way to get water and electric and plumbing and all this to this dirt. It's expensive. It's not cheap. And you can't finance a septic tank. That's $25,000, $20,000. And if you're looking at a cheaper option, new construction, especially buying a piece of land, is not going to be the cheaper of the two options compared to resale. Should I buy with someone or on my own? And what are the differences? There really are no differences. As long as they are family, most all mortgages will take it on. There's certain differences if they're not family, like the VA, you have to be married if you're going to be on the VA mortgage with them. But ultimately, if you have more people that are above a 620 credit score and have income to bring to the table, it's only going to give you a better chance at getting pre-approved for a higher amount. Does Delaware have first-time home buyer programs? We absolutely do. Delaware State Housing Authority is one that I could get you in contact with. Again, text DSHA, DSHA to me, to this number, and I'll absolutely get you hooked up and we can chat about what programs they're currently offering. The only reason I don't give too much information right now is because their programs always change. The amount that they're offering is always different. The credit score requirements shifts, and the interest rates they offer, they were just offering 5.75% interest rates. That's super low in the 7% market. And if you're looking to get a cheaper opportunity, a more affordable home in Delaware, DSHA is a great one. Text me. Text DSHA if you're a first-time homebuyer looking to move in Delaware. This number. Last question. Actually, two more questions. Should I be looking into trailers, double wides, Class C, and manufactured? Sure. Absolutely, but you afford to know the differences. One difference is single wides can't be financed in a lot of cases. There are some, but in a lot of cases, those single wides, double wides, they still have the axles on them, come with such a high interest rate that it's not even worth it. The other thing to know about anything that's not on a permanent foundation, and not to say the Class C manufactured aren't, but anything not on a permanent foundation typically is not going to be an equitable asset. It's not going to be growing over time in its value. Whereas a Class C property is a double wide home on a permanent foundation that's always been on a permanent foundation. Manufacturing can be the same way or the opposite, but it's good to contact your real estate professional of trust in these scenarios to see which ones can be financed, which ones are going to be equitable assets for you, and which ones are still going to be registered with the DMV. I don't think you want your first home registered with the DMV if you can avoid it. And the last question is, if I want to reach out to you, when should I reach out to you? If you're looking to buy within the next 16 to 18 months or sooner, text me, buy my first home. Text me, buy my first home, if you're looking to buy within the next 16 to 18 months. Let's get on the phone. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out how to get you prepared. Now's the best time to get prepared. Whether you're looking next month or next year, getting prepared is necessary to being able to get into a property, especially in this market. Let's talk about the strategy of a 2024, 2025 housing market. Let's go into the benefits of a Delaware State Housing Authority and which homes you should be looking at and which mortgages will benefit you best. Has anyone taken the time to do that for you? If not, text buy my first home 302-503-6647. My name's Zachary Faust. You can look me up on Google. Loft, we have over 500 plus 5-star reviews, and I believe we're the #1 reviewed real estate team in all of Delaware. So if you want to work with a veteran-owned and operated squad that focuses in or around first-time home buyers, military relocation, that's our niche. That's what we love. Hit me up. I would love to work with you. And if any of this has been of value to you, whether you're in Delaware, Nebraska, Florida, of course, text me if you're in Delaware. I can't really help you if you're in Colorado, but I'd love to, know that it was worth something to you, that this brought value to you. I would love to know that you get into your first home because of something you've learned from this video. And I would love for you to subscribe and notify whenever we make these posts so we can engage in the comments. Hit me up down there. Ask questions. I respond. I'd love to connect more with you. And if you're looking to buy your first home, it's an amazing journey. Hope I can help you with it, and hope this helps you get started in buying your first home 2024 or 2025. Talk to you later.